Living Waters presents On the Box.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of On the Box. Today is Wednesday, May 11th, 2011, which means the world will explode in the next 10 days. Right?
Wow.
May 21st?
Yes.
Right?
I got a lot to do.
And just a little time to do it.
Yes.
If you don't recognize the handsome old man sitting next to me here, his name is Eddie Roman. Well, you got a little more gray than I do.
You never called me handsome before.
Huh? Well, I've always thought highly of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
First met Eddie through the Ambassadors Academy. Which academy did you come to?
12.
Good answer. Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Yes.
Yes. Academy number 12. Eddie is now the producer of the Living Waters television program, The Way of the Master, along with everything else we do video-wise here at the ministry. And so we're going to hear from Eddie in a little bit. He's going to share his testimony, and we'll ask him some questions about how the season's going. And hopefully that'll be all kinds of fun for you.
Yes.
You're looking at me out of the corner of your eye.
Well, you know, it's a green screen thing, and we're not supposed to say that.
There's no green screen.
The blue screen.
There's no green screen. Today's giveaway is...
That was the giveaway.
It was.
We just gave
2
away.
free packs. That's not it either, but that's two packs of the Celebrity $1 Million bill. That is our $1 billion bill, I think.
No, it's million.
Oh, that's the old million. Yeah. So the Celebrity Millions don't look anything like the old million. They're the same but only different. And we're going to send you 2 packs of those. All you have to do is email us at onthebox@livingwaters.com.
How are they different?
Onthebox@livingwaters.com. Full name, full address, and your zip code, since this is a pre-recorded program today. We won't be announcing the winners on the program. You'll be notified via email. Why is this a pre-recorded program? Because we got back from Israel yesterday, and after 10 days in Israel with Ray Comfort, we need a nap. And so we're all taking the day off to rest
We need
up.
more
and
than that.
Yeah, need a couple of days of long nap.
Yes.
Get to see our families again. So, Chad, how you doing today, buddy?
No rest for the wicked.
No rest. Well, no, you're not wicked. No rest for the hard working. Yeah. Now, do you want to share about what your nephews did, or are we going to leave that in house?
I guess we'll share a little bit
Okay,
about
go
it.
ahead. Maybe it'll make you feel better too.
So yesterday, relatively speaking, for us, yesterday was Resurrection Day, and I drank some chlorinated water. My little cousins, my little nephews gave me some chlorinated water to drink. I was chasing them around, got a little tired, sat down, taking a breather. They ran up to me with a bottle of water, filled up to the brim with the cap on, big old smile on their face. I should have known better. Took the cool water from them, gulp, 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 gulp. Then I tasted it, and I haven't been feeling that great ever since. And I just did a workout, which made me feel worse. I thought it'd make me feel better.
Usually a workout will help you feel better. But
yeah.
Now,
you can break through it,
There's a little more to the story, though. I mean, this fountain was in a family member's backyard, and it was foaming with chlorine, right? Or
I went to go take a look at what did I drink. Let's go see. I wanted to see with my own eyes, and there's suds on the surface, and it was looking milky. Not good.
Just stop to think about how
something cheered me up.
What's
when
that?
You said May 21st.
Yeah.
It made me think of May 18th, and that's significant to me because May 18th was the day that I got out of the military, out of being active duty. So that means I have now coming up less than a year of inactive duty to go, which means I will no longer be on the hook. Another year to go.
There you go. Now, when after you drank the water and after you went and looked at the fountain, did you stop for a second and wonder how many birds carrying bird flu bathed in that water? I mean, did you?
No, I actually laughed. It's like it took a little bit for me to feel the effects.
Now you've been in water in other parts of the world far worse than the fountain in your aunt's backyard, right?
Yes, down in San Diego, the San Diego Bay has some of the most tainted water in the world.
Really?
We have the
I was thinking
Tijuana,
the Philippines.
Well, the Tijuana
Like
riverbed,
Elsinore.
the river mouth runs off, and it's real close to the San Diego Bay there, and we're diving in that bay, on a regular basis. Out in the Philippines, it's pretty bad too. They're both up there.
So, payback. We know vengeance is not ours, but
it's Chad's.
But it's Chad's. But the nephews, do they look forward to some type of thank you from you for?
I haven't planned on it, so I always get them. They always get hurt. By the end of the day, you know, something happens by accident. One of them's crying, and then I'm like, oh no.
That's the biggest
Dropped
smile.
him on his head a little hard.
That's the biggest smile you've had all day when I asked you that question, if you were going to pay your nephews back.
Maybe they're paying me back.
And when you were in SEAL training, did they prepare you to drink poison by any chance? Was that part of the training?
No,
Oh.
no. They gave
That's
us a
too
lot
bad.
of shots, though. A lot of them I don't know. I guess supposedly, I don't plan on testing it out, but I'm immune to anthrax.
Really?
It was a series of 8 shots that I got.
Wow.
Nice, painful
That can
ones.
come in handy.
Okay. All right, and that brings us into a perfect segue into this clip from the season 4 episode
Anthrax,
of The Way
yes.
of the Master in Germany,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Do
That's
you want to
right.
set up this clip before we see it? You made
yeah,
it.
there's anthrax there, I guess. Now, let's see. It's, you know, as you know, on the Europe trip, Ray and the guys are just going all over the place, evangelizing as they go. And so in this part of the Munich episode, they're on a train. And, you know, most of us, when we're at the end of the day and going home for the night, we're tired, but not Ray. He's got a microphone in his hand, and he's just looking for opportunities. So, you know, that's what's going on here. So why don't you go ahead and play that clip.
Let's take a look.
I'm scared of snakes and carnies.
Are you afraid of God?
God strikes a little fear in me.
Good, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If you don't fear God, you haven't begun to be wise. So what scares you?
Dolls. Like Chucky or Child's Play, puppets, ventriloquist dolls scare me.
You're kidding me.
No, 100% serious.
Little
You're
people.
100% serious.
If I saw it, I would freak out.
Are you afraid of dying?
No.
You're not afraid of death?
Death can't touch me.
So if some guy came with an Uzi, it wouldn't worry you?
I take the Uzi out of his hand. Porn supremacy.
What about you? Are you scared of death?
I don't think I want to die now, but I'm more scared of dolls.
Try and suppress your alcohol and tell me what you really think. Do you think there's an afterlife?
Well, I don't consider myself an extremely religious man by any means. However, I do have a belief that after death, there is something else. You know, maybe a little afterlife, a solid little meal here and there, good drinks. I feel like it could be a good life if you've done well in this world.
What about you, Flynn? Do you think there's an afterlife or
Absolutely.
reincarnated?
Absolutely.
Seriously, you think there's a heaven and a hell?
Definitely. No
You
reincarnation.
believe in hell?
Yeah.
Why?
Because if you're an awful person, there should be a reason for that. Believe I'm a 100% moral person.
Sounds like you think about it.
A little bit.
A lot of people don't think very deeply about the issues that matter. Now, you said, Flint, that you're an extremely moral person.
I didn't say extremely moral. Believe I'm a 100% moral person.
We are on our way to Prague in the Czech Republic. And from what I understand, we may run into the largest crowds yet, an open-air preacher's paradise. So until next time, let me leave you with a question. Do you talk to people about Jesus? Whether it's a large crowd or a small child, there are people in your life who need to hear the gospel. So let's get past our fears and reach this world with the good news of salvation through Jesus Christ.
So, fear of dolls, is that like Raggedy Andy
dolls.
phobia or something
I
like
think you
that?
said
Or
Chucky.
Chucky phobia?
Yeah, so
I've never met anybody that was afraid of dolls.
I've never really thought of dolls in that.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes, it is good to know.
And he was 100% moral.
100%. Yeah. Well,
Probably not, though.
You'll have to see the rest
Yeah.
to find out if he really was 100% moral or not.
I've seen it.
We might have found the guy. We might have found the guy who was really 100%.
I don't think we have.
Okay.
All right, so
That's not him.
that was, you were brought on to the ministry in part to get season 4
Yeah.
put together.
Yes.
What's that been like for you?
Wow, it's been great. Boy, so I went to the academy about 2 years ago. It was in August, and before then, I really had no knowledge of The Way of the Master. I'd never seen the TV show. I couldn't have recognized Kirk or Ray if I would have seen him on TV. Didn't know who you are. That's the saddest part, right there. didn't really, hadn't
I'm
even
far less recognizable than the other two.
Yes, hadn't seen any, when it's just had no knowledge whatsoever of this ministry. Back in probably 91, 92, I had heard Hell's Best Kept Secret, and
That long ago.
that long ago.
Wow.
And I remember liking it, but that was about it. Just okay, I like this Ray Comfort guy. Life goes on, and so and I'm going to get more into this in a minute, but kind of live the rest of my experience as a Christian not really doing any kind of evangelism for a bunch of different reasons that we're about to get into. So when I got, for me to be doing this now and to be working on a show that teaches evangelism, and I'm teaching evangelism classes in my church every week, I'm doing open air preaching and just regularly involved, it's very strange. It's a big change for me.
So when you got here to the ministry, what was the biggest surprise for you?
Ray.
You underestimated him, didn't you?
Yes. No, I don't know. I mean, boy, I've worked with a lot of different Christian ministries. I've done work for the Billy Graham Association and Greg Laurie and this one group called Safe Harbor International. We do a lot of stuff overseas and famines, disasters, and stuff like that. And boy, I've been around a lot of Christian leaders, guys at the head of big Christian ministries, but none of them are like Ray. Nope. That's for sure. Yeah. One of the things I think one of his strengths is just how personable he is to the common man. Yeah. Just very, very opposite. He just likes people. Not that anyone else doesn't, but it's very genuine.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to provide.
And he's funny.
Yes,
that's a plus.
Genuinely funny.
Yes, he is.
And it's always a challenge to provide security for him from time to time because he likes nothing better than to dodge.
Yes, you can't
security
keep up with him.
All right, so that was Germany. Obviously, Prague is the one after Germany. What else is left in season 4?
Oh boy. That's a good question.
I thought you were the guy to ask.
I didn't go on the trip.
Oh, okay.
I mean, basically, they went on the trip.
That's right.
They gave me this mountain of footage. I'm going through it with each one. So they went somewhere next. I'm sure it was good wherever they went.
And it's amazing the way you guys, the whole Living Waters production team is in-house. And
yes.
Many of the guys on the team are doing things that they've never done before in prep in season 4. And it's by far, I think, on a production level, the best season yet. Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's great. We got a great team here. We're using a couple guys, freelance guys, just to do certain motion graphics things. But for the most part, it's just a great bunch of guys who work here.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So we're going to talk a little bit today about personal hindrances to evangelism. What does that have to do with you?
Well, I was hindered from evangelism personally for a very long time, and when I think of hindrances to evangelism, I just think of what were the things that kept me from opening my mouth? What were the things that kept me from doing evangelism to whether it's my family or friends or anyone? And for me, it all kind of came down to fear in one way or another. We say, well, I don't know what to say. Well, that's a fear. We're afraid we're going to be embarrassed or look like an idiot or something like that. We're afraid the person's going to act negatively. We're afraid of rejection, and some of us, our imaginations get going. We're afraid we're going to get beat up, which can happen once in a while, but it's not the norm. Thankfully.
Not here yet.
What's the last time you got beat up?
I was threatened just this last weekend.
Oh, but you didn't get beat up.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, being threatened is. I guess you could be scared of that. Yeah, I used to be scared of that too. So
Tony was
beat up. You could have someone threaten to give you some poisonous drink, even though you're a relative.
Yeah, sometimes you should feel threatened around people like nephews.
Yes.
Yeah,
you should. But
children of the corn.
So for the most part, I just wasn't doing evangelism, and it's pretty funny because here I am, the guy who's working for the Billy Graham Association, for Greg Laurie, for all these national ministries that are just like at the head of, big time crusades and evangelism and stuff like that. And yet I myself, on a personal note, just wasn't doing it. One of the ministries I worked for was Safe Harbor International Relief, and what they do is they're similar to Samaritan's Purse, to where they'll go into like a famine or a disaster, and they'll minister to people, and then they'll do evangelism in that setting. And so, man, we were going in and out of war zones. We were going into South Sudan a lot, and so we're going into these places where there's active combat going on, into places where there's real animals that could kill you, just disease, all this stuff. And so we're doing that on a constant basis. And you know, I would get the chance to do evangelism there once in a while, like in a organized setting. So they'd show the Jesus film, and then I'd get up and get to preach the gospel. So I've actually been in some really hairy situations, but then I would get back home and it's like, oh, I'm done. I don't have to do evangelism anymore. And it was almost like I wouldn't do any kind of evangelism unless either, you know, someone was telling me to do it, or it was some kind of situation where I thought, okay, I need to evangelize now. I can remember 3 times during my Christian walk when I shared the gospel with someone who was dying, with 2 people who were literally on their deathbed, and another person who was in the final stages of cancer. And all 3 times, the people, they heard me out, they liked what I said, they, you know, as far as I could tell, believed and accepted, and within a couple weeks, all of them died.
Wow. Of
the time, you know, so it was almost like I was reserving the gospel for when it was really
big
important.
Critical incidents. Yeah.
You know, but for the rest of the time, it was like that's what it took in order for me to really step out and say, okay, this is serious now. You know, of course that's stupid because I have no idea when anyone's going to die or you know, that kind of thing. So, that was kind of, you know, me really not preaching the gospel ever, every once in a while doing it. And then in those moments when I was thinking, do I really preach the gospel? I could think, oh yeah, I did a year ago to this guy, and it kind of made it okay. You know. Now,
up until the point where you applied to attend the Ambassadors Academy a couple of years ago, you weren't doing much by way of evangelism.
No.
What made you decide to come to the academy?
Boy.
And how scary was that to hit the send button?
You know what? It wasn't scary at all to hit the send button.
That wasn't the answer I was looking for.
Everybody says that. You know, it's a button. Anyway, so there was about a year, right up until the academy, a year in my life where I was just kind of out of nowhere, just convicted about the fact that I wasn't preaching the gospel. It was just kind of like this thing that was there. Call it a burden, a conviction, whatever. But I just knew I should be doing it, and I wasn't. And it didn't help being around all these different evangelism ministries and filming it happening. But you know, the whole time thinking, oh, I'm not doing it. And it's tricky being in a ministry doing that, because it's almost like you can say, well, I'm part of the team, we're doing evangelism, but when it comes down to
You're doing evangelism in a supporting role.
Yeah, type of thing. But when it comes down to it, I wasn't doing anything. I was a guy with a camera, you know. And so, not to say having a camera is not important, but as far as I wasn't doing the evangelism. Chad, you work at camera great, and it's very good.
Yeah, he's not actually to your left.
Yes.
He's in the foxhole a million miles
Chad,
away.
You're great over there. Okay. Try not to let that poison affect you. So, you know, that was kind of me, just knowing I should be doing it, but not doing it. So, you know, one day I'm clicking around on the internet and surfing the old web and come across Ray Comfort, you know, jamming up this guy on the street and going through the whole good person test, and it was funny. I liked it, and he's preaching the gospel, you know, and it's like, man, this is cool. And so I just started watching the witnessing clip videos. Eventually found the academy webpage and saw the little promo there and thought, man, that could help. That looks like it could help, and boy, did it.
So how did it help? You got to the academy.
Got to the academy. You know what? I think for me, the academy was just a time when I was able just to face my fears head on. You know, just like. Before the academy, I wasn't even thinking about it at all. My son had been born recently with a cleft palate with a birth defect. So we were busy. My mind was elsewhere. And even getting up to the academy, I wasn't getting work as my freelance video job. I wasn't getting much work, so it was like, should I pay the rest of this to go? And it was, so I wasn't even sure. But then it was like, no, I need to do this. So I think that one of the things at the academy was just seeing a bunch of guys who were doing what I knew I was supposed to be doing, whether that be in the leaders or in the people who were enrolled themselves, just out there doing it. It's just like, man, this is what I need to be doing. One of the things I liked a lot was the fact that not everyone out there doing evangelism was, a great evangelist. They were just like normal.
Just folks.
And it was funny because one of the first conversations I got into, I had this Bible question this person was asking me, and I go over to someone else. I'm all, hey, what's the answer? And they're like, I don't know. And it was the best because it really didn't matter, because this atheist person asked me, they didn't care. They were just trying to jam me up.
Sure.
But it was just really freeing to me to where, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's okay to say I don't know.
Not to, now, you definitely want to know as much as you can, but it was just awesome to see not so much all these people who were like the king apologetic, Bible answer people. They were just people who were just simply obeying God and getting out there and preaching the gospel.
About that I don't know thing, too, if I could kind of jump in here. Something during open airs that I really appreciate is when somebody asks me a question I don't know the answer to, and I'm actually really relieved and really happy to let them know that I don't know the answer, because then it's sort of like a relief for everybody there. It kind of opens up the atmosphere to more questions, like this guy's not a know-it-all, or he's not just going to wing it and come up with some sort of ad hoc contrived answer right there on the spot. And I think it develops a sort of fruitful conversation when you're up there on the box. And as Ray says, you always do have an answer, and sometimes your answer is, I don't know, and just let the person know that you'd like to get back to them on that.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes when someone asks you a question like that and the answer is I don't know, they're immediately going to have their aha moment, maybe laugh or something. I'll stop them when they do that and say, wait a minute. When you die and you stand before God, you mean to tell me your only defense is going to be that Tony could not answer your question on Hollywood Boulevard? You really are going to use that for a defense? And sometimes that'll cause them to take a step back and think about that. So, speaking of questions, we got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can get one or two out of the mailbag. This one is from John Scott out of New Jersey. I recently ran into an old friend and had the opportunity to talk with him about his faith. He said that he is a quote-unquote realist and that he only believes what he can see and touch. I took him through the painter analogy and the good person test. He said it doesn't matter what I tell him because the Bible was written by man and he doesn't trust man. Chad, there's all kinds of stuff to work with in there, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there sure is. One of the key points, you don't have to be a philosopher, logician to work through something with a friend like this. You've got God's word on it that he does know that God exists. So no matter how much he kicks and screams and says, la, 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 puts the head in the sand, I don't believe God exists, God's word says otherwise. It says, the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all, not just some, all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who what?
Suppress the truth.
Suppress the truth and unrighteousness. And when you consider suppressing the truth, I mean, it's much like I've heard it put this way, taking a basketball or a beach ball on top of some water, chlorinated water, and you're pushing it down. You actually have to hold it down as it's pressing back up at you. And this is what the unbelieving world does. When they deny that God exists, ultimately their reasoning boils down to nothing more than futility, and they can't make sense of things. If you try and take his realism, which sounds a lot more like verificationism, which is, you basically don't believe something to be true that can't be verified by the five senses. Does he know when he was born? Can he verify that statement itself? with his five senses, it truly is a self-defeating statement.
Right.
So when he says, the Bible is written by men, well, so is your birth certificate. But the Bible never claims to only be written by men, but men inspired by God. And that's one of the unique things that you see in Scripture is how God can declare the future from the beginning before it ever happens. But I would really focus on aiming at the conscience with him. It's something that God gave him. We use the law, and the law is basically brings sinners into that point of conviction. It's what the Holy Spirit is apt to using to convict them and open them up to the gospel. So, again, no matter how much they try and kick and scream and say they don't believe that God exists, God's word says otherwise, and I trust God more than men.
Yeah. I've had people come up with these objections to me in the past, saying that they don't believe the Bible because it was written by man. And so I asked them if I could see their driver's license. And that's a pretty comfortable question for me because I asked that of thousands of people over 20 years. And oftentimes they'll pull out their driver's license. I mean, people will just do that. And I'll look at the license and I'll say, well, that picture looks like you. What's your name? Yeah, it says it there. I don't believe that, though. Your address? Yeah, I don't believe that either. I don't know if that's your signature. I could have bought this down in L.A. for $5. This was put together by man. I don't believe it. I don't believe who you say you are. I don't believe where you live. I don't believe anything because it was written by man. And it only takes a couple of minutes of, throwing their, false reasoning back in their face for them to realize that it's really not a good.
Brad Snow could have made that driver's license.
Brad Snow could have made it. That's right.
It really is a misrepresentation, and the logic just doesn't really follow that. Okay, so here's the point. Can men make mistakes? Do men make mistakes? Yes. Does it then logically follow that the God-inspired word is mistaken? No, because you're not taking all things into account, because it never claims to be a book that was written only by men. It claims to be otherwise. So when they try and say, well, that book's only written by men, therefore it has mistakes in it, well, it's a misrepresentation. And if we're only looking at a book that was only written by men and nothing else, that God didn't have his influence on it, I would stand shoulder to shoulder right next to you and say, you know what, I wouldn't trust that thing either. But, the real Christian worldview, it says that God, who created all things, has his hand in the word. So can you please give me a reason why an all-powerful, all-knowing God wouldn't be able to use man if he wanted to communicate his word through men? And they're going to have a lot of explaining to do if they try and say that an all-powerful, all-knowing God wouldn't be capable of doing such a thing. So it's totally possible. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And then the question is it so? And then you can move forward from there. I would like to jump into Isaiah 53 with the person on that. But I know we're running short on time. Well, we're out of time, aren't we?
Yeah, we are out of time. Eddie, we want to thank you for being on the program today. You're welcome back anytime, since you are the Supreme Allied Commander of all things video.
I'll remember that. I'll just come in and sit here.
You're welcome to drop by anytime you want.
Okay.
We don't care.
Okay.
I mean, we don't care in the sense that we do care.
Okay.
We do care. We like you.
Okay.
We love the legend.
We love the legend. Oh, we didn't tell anyone. You know what? You're just going to have to.
The legend continues.
You're just going to have to come back. The mystery of the legend
Yes.
continues. You'll have to come back and fill us in on why you are, in fact, a legend.
Okay.
And on behalf of the legend and Chad, this is Tony Miano thanking you for joining us for another edition of On the Box. We will see you tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time right here. And until then, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel.
You're full of it! Living Waters presents On the Box.